I also want to take a moment today to say thank you to Miss San Antonio Team USA, Ava Twittero, for helping us out in the ring today. Ava, wave at everybody.
Well, a really nice class. These top three, four ewe lambs really have a lot. It's a little fuller in that loin, a little fuller in that leg, a little more freshness and bounce, if you will, to that muscle up to the top. pretty close between second and third. I think the one in second's a little bolder about her front. She carries a little more width out through her loin and hip and gives me more expression in that leg. The one in third's probably a little bit neater about the way she ties from her shoulder into that fore-rib in rack, but I give the advantage to the one in second just being a little bolder and a little stouter. The next one in fourth, really stout, really wide, big frame, or big-footed, massive in its skeleton, one that has a tremendous amount of top shape. When we get this one compared to the others, this one gets forward in its shoulder, a little shorter in its neck. I'd like to level this one's top line out, make it a little more comfortable when we put it on the move. Gets just a little bit roached in that top, gets a little restricted in that movement in comparison to the first three. The one in fifth just needs a little finish taken off, maybe a little bit higher quality as far as balance is concerned in comparison to them. And then we get into three that just need a little more muscle, need a little more shape, especially when we get into that back 1/3 of their bodies, just need a little more horsepower. But really, really a nice set. Let's give these kids a round of applause for a nice job in this lightweight medium wool class.
Class 13 medium wools. First place, Amy Ritchie. Second place, Nora Botting. Third place, Lucy Botting. Fourth place, Colson McLean. Fifth place, Minka Dupreez. Sixth place, Weston Warndell. Seventh is Megan Fox.
They're twins.
They said, yeah, we're sisters. Yeah, I got it.
They're not they were twins. Very different.
Yeah.
All right, Class 14 medium wools coming into the ring. There are 10 entries in this class.
I don't remember which is older. That one lets her know she's older.
Right, Class 14 medium wools are entering the ring. Class 15 medium wools, please be getting ready to come to the staging area. Class 15 medium wools, be getting ready. Brooke Clements, class 15, need to come to the staging area with your medium wool. Brooke Clements, your class 15 medium wool, need to come to the staging area.
Well, a really nice class. Told this young man in fifth that he's got a really nice sheep. He's got a lot of muscle, just maybe needs a little more time on feed. And I think a real high quality class from there on up. We're going to start with one that to me wins the class nicely. You talk about movement around the ring and carrying that skeleton and structure in the right place. This one's wide. He covers his tracks nicely. You get to the side of him and he transitions from front to rear really good, really smooth down that top. Tremendous handle as far as that touch is concerned, one that gets wider and big in that loin and through that hip, and yet looks really extended in his front and holds himself together about his front end real nicely. Just a really good one. Taking nothing away from second and third, because two really nice sheep. The weather in second really attractive in that front end. Maybe a little flatter in that lower rib. We might give a little more curvature to that lower rib. The one that really is nice as far as that top line and bottom line is concerned, and the underline and the way that they tie together. Another level, thick one out through that hip. Maybe not quite as bold coming at me or going away from me as far as total width. Maybe not quite the dimension to that rib and upper rib that the one in first has. The one in third, a ewe lamb, doesn't want to work with this young man, wants to keep pulling back, and it makes it kind of hard to look at. Really big rack, really big loin, tremendous hip. Not quite as clean in that shoulder and front end as the first two. One that I'd like to change has just a little tie in the middle of its back. I'd like to smooth that out, make it a little more like these two as far as that levelness and easiness of top that they have. The one you appreciate the extra muscle, the extra shape, and the extra dimension to the body that one has. The one next, really cool from the side, one that gets a little frailer. Excuse me, a little frailer in comparison to the top three. One that gets a little narrower, especially on her hind two going away from me. I'd like to make her a little wider between her hocks. I'd like to give her just a little more expression of muscle compared to the one right in front of her. I'd like to give her a little more width in comparison to the first two. We get into the fifth one, and I told this young man's got a lot of muscle. He's just a little immature in his loin and down his top. He doesn't feel my hand quite as well. Maybe just a tad round at times. One that's big-footed, big bone, balance is nice. I just need to change those things about him. More time on feed usually helps those things, and this one could be competitive down the road for sure. We get into the next ones, not quite as much muscle. Maybe they're a little inverted as far as their balance is to me, and then we get down to some that we just need more muscle, more shape, more tone. But really a good class. Again, these kids have done a really good job. Let's give them a round of applause for their efforts here.
Class 14 medium wools, first place James Schultz, second Case Pearson, third Jackson Missildine, fourth Abby Owen, fifth place Case Pearson, sixth Hayden Wandell, seventh Amy Ritchie, eighth Peyton Trapp, ninth Renault Ruff, and 10th Keely Bertling. All right, we're about to bring into the ring. There are 9 entries in this class. Class 15 medium wools are entering
a nice set. In saying that, there's one that comes to the top pretty nicely for me. When you talk about skeletal quality and structural quality, I think this one imitates that as good as any we've had through the ring today. Really wide going away from you, really wide coming at you. I think proportional balance works well with this one that's really neat as far as his lines are concerned. And then you get up over top of him in one that's got a nice rib shape and rack shape. Comes back real wide, really good from hip to hock to ground when we put him in motion, or when we just stand him. He's just really secure on his feet and legs and does things nicely as far as movement and as far as when you look at him parked. Take nothing away from the ewe in second, a really good handling one as far as touch and tone's concerned. Maybe just a little harder to the touch than the one in first. Not quite as neat as far as that hip shape and leg shape and the way he carries his hind two. Not quite as neat as his balance when we look at the width and depth of his flank. When we look at the way he moves, or she, moves around, doesn't hold herself quite together skeletally as well as the weather that wins it. Really attractive one from the side here. Really appreciate the cleanliness of front, the extension of front, one that has a nice rack shape. We just get a little off when we get back through that loin and hip. We're not as wide and deep in that loin and true in that loin as the first two. We're not as wide out through those pin bones and carry as much muscle as the first two, and consequently goes in third. The fourth one's much like the one in third, not quite as good the way the neck ties in the shoulder, but when you look at length of body and the way they're made down their top, their shape of top and their look from the side as far as from their shoulder back is very similar. We just need to blow them both apart. I think the one in third has more touch and tone to the top, has a little more width and flare to the loin than the one in third, or than the one in fourth, The one in fourth's really neat as far as the way he handles his hind two. Probably is a little bit better on him than the one in third, but not quite as good in his loin, not quite as much muscle and touch and tone when we handle him compared to the one right in front of him. The next ewe lamb just gets a little shorter, a little smaller, smaller frame, maybe earlier maturing. We'd like to make this one a little better in the loinage. We like the hip and flare to that leg. Need to make it a little cooler about its front, make it a little bit fuller in that loin to move it up. And then we get into some sheep that I talk to these kids about, that they have some future. Some of them, they just need a little more time on feed. They don't have quite the touch and tone, don't have quite the skeletal balance right now. And some of that with feed and exercise, we can change a little bit of that. But really, really a nice set. Let's give these kids a round of applause for a nice job here.
Class 15 medium mules, first place, Dylan Trotty. Second place, Cambry Boder. Third place, Brooke Clements. Fourth place, Justine Covarrubias. Fifth place, Lucy Botting. Sixth place, Dustin Trotty. Seventh place, Kaylee Green. Eighth place, Shiloh Purdom. And ninth place, Peyton Lesage. All right, Class 16 medium mules are entering the ring. There are 9 entries in this class. Class 17 medium mules, be getting ready to come to the staging area. Class 17 medium mules, be getting ready. All right, correction on Class 15. First place was Cambry Boder, and second place was Dylan Trotty.